Yeah. Right. I ain't saying this shit, Man, yeah. Rockin' new designer kicks, I rock all kind of shit.
Welcome to the show, guys. You guys are tuned into Two Guys One Octagon. As always, that was ISO Lando bringing us in. Shout out to ISO Lando. Thank you. I am your co-host, Jesse Moreno, joined by my other co-host, John Logan Hines. How you doing, JL?
The NBA is back, baby. We have more sports, and I'm cracking open a beer to celebrate. Cheers to you, my friend. Cheers to... All right, use your muscles. Cheers to an absolutely wonderful weekend of UFC betting. A taste of victory. We're going to talk a little bit about this past weekend. Look forward to Lewis versus Oleinik, and talk a little bit about what's going on in the UFC this week. Certainly excited to bring all of that to you. And again, before we get started, please like, subscribe to our video. We're putting a lot of effort into prepping for these. I'm handing out winners left and right. So if you like what you're hearing from me, drop me a subscribe, drop me a like, and give us a follow. Two Guys One Octagon on Twitter. Jesse, man, let's go ahead and jump in. I'm pumped.
I'm pumped too, man. We got a fully stacked show for you guys today. As JL said, we're going to be looking ahead to UFC Vegas 6, Lewis versus Oleinik. We're going to break down the entire card for you. Then my favorite part of the show, the head-to-head. We're going to go head-to-head on Lewis versus Oleinik and Weidman versus Akhmedov. Then we'll continue with our MMA newsroom and conclude with our MMA great debate. We're going to talk about Roy Jones, Mike Tyson today, so should be pretty fun. But
I know who I'm picking in that fight.
Before we do anything, let's look back to last week. This is the weekly JL gloating section. So JL, let's look at UFC 5. Brunson, obviously with the upset. Shout out to Jay.
I'm upset.
Jennifer Maia, Vicente Luque, Bobby Green, and always the Nutshot made an appearance. JL, where do you want to start by talking about this before we get into the records and where we stand so far since July 1?
Well, Jesse, I'd love to start there, but since you're making me talk about some other stuff going on, so to me it was an interesting card all around. I mean, you had the co-main and the main event going with the upset route, and certainly the Brunson upset was much bigger than the Maia upset over Calderwood, but still, nonetheless, I saw one of them coming, but didn't see the other. I actually we'll get to Brunson, and I kind of want to get your take on that. Let's start with talking about Calderwood and Maia a little bit. And a little bit disappointing to see Calderwood, who it sounds like from some reports had to take that fight just from trying to capture some of that pay leading up to a potential or what would have been a title shot against Valentina Shevchenko. Now Jennifer Maia, who looked good, man. No disrespect to Maia. Don't want to take credit away from her there. But I was more excited for the Calderwood Valentina fight. I'm a little bit nervous about how Maia's going to look in the stand up against somebody as frankly amazing as Valentina is, and I think it takes a little bit away from that fight. And not that Valentina wasn't going to win, no matter who it is at this point. So
I think that's a loss for everybody but Jennifer Maia. I think Jojo Calderwood versus Valentina Shevchenko is a much more exciting fight for the UFC. It's a more exciting fight for the fans, and stylistically, it's a much more exciting fight. For Jennifer Maia, her going up against Valentina, when you look at the X's and O's, I feel like it's a tough matchup. I feel like we're going to see like a minus 1,000 come out on Valentina. I don't think Jennifer Maia is going to be able to take Valentina down, and I think Valentina is going to coast her way to either a decision or a knockout in probably the 4th or 5th, and it's not going to be eventful. It's not going to be all too exciting. I just feel like there's nobody out there right now that can beat Valentina, and if we want to see someone that could bring the best out of Valentina, I thought it was going to be Jojo Calderwood. Not to take anything away against Maia. She hurt my bankroll there. She hurt my feelings, but happy for her to get the win. The one who I thought actually impressed me the most on the card was outside of Derek Brunson was Vicente Luque. watching this guy grow in the UFC has been extremely impressive. This guy's got everything you need to have to be a champion. He's just run into some tough matchups at the top in the welterweight division, and no disrespect to him, man. I feel like he's following that Henry Hoof guideline to the book. He's got amazing striking. He's got the heart you need. He's got a submission game as well. And obviously off the fight IQ too, to be able to lift the head up of Randy Brown, to fit that knee in to finish the fight. A lot of people would just pull that knee and risk the DQ, but his fight IQ there was extremely impressive. You can't take anything away from him.
Yeah, absolutely impressive. I was trying to pull up his record and maybe talk a little bit about who we might see him go against next, but my computer is being slow on me. Yeah, nonetheless, Mike Perry, a victor over Mike Perry, victor over Nico Price, like we talked about last week. Obviously, this past weekend, beating up on Randy Brown. He looked really, really good this weekend. And his only loss, and since 2017, or his last two losses, Leon Edwards and Stephen Thompson. So certainly nothing to shake your head about. And maybe this guy's, in the position where he's going to deserve a shot against somebody in that top 10 coming up, here within the next, 3-4 months or so.
He's young too, man. I'd like to see him against, it looks like Jeffrey Neal's right ahead of him in the ranking at 16th. But it's good. It starts to become a murderer's row there, and he's got knocked down every time he's taken a step up. I don't think he's going to get that Nate Diaz fight that he was asking for. But
no, Nate won't fight him. Nate's not going to fight anybody that's not a household name. So
yep. Yeah. So it's fun. It's fun stuff ahead for Vicente Luque. But JL, I know you hit a big live bet on Bobby Green, so I'm going to give you the platform to talk about that because I lost a big live bet on Lando Venata.
Well, I think that Venata looked really good in the initial exchanges, and that is, I think, what you got caught up in. I just thought Bobby Green looked a little bit more composed early on, and that's why I ended up going with him. To me, it looked like Venata gassed out a little bit there in the second and third round and allowed Bobby Green to come on, which I believe is exactly how I called that fight and exactly how I thought that fight was going to go. We're going to see the cardio of Bobby Green pick up as the fight went on, and Venata just couldn't hang with him. So the pace picked up, and we just, in my opinion, Green outclassed him. By the time we got to the end of the fight, to me, it wasn't even a question who won that thing.
I didn't think it was a question who won that thing, but I'm going to disagree with you that he gassed out. I think it was more he slowed down because the accumulative damage that Bobby Green put on him. I think I took my live bet on Lando Venata after he dropped him. I got him at minus 185, and I thought with a knockdown in the bag, minus 185 was good money, especially how he looked in their initial fight. But then how Bobby Green followed up and dropped him in the first round was a much more devastating knockdown than what Lando had on Bobby originally. And then by the time that third round came around, he opened up pretty big and got another big knockdown to start. And when you get that accumulative damage and you've been knocked down and dropped a bunch of times, not to mention the wear and tear on you, the body's not going to react how you need it to. So I think it was fatigue, but I don't think it was because he gassed out. I think it was more because of the accumulative damage that put on him.
Can we just, and that might be the case, Jesse, and you're certainly more experienced in the fight game than I. But let's just pause for a moment and give just a shout out to Bobby Green, because yes, I'd had a few beverages by the time that fight came on, but still, I was on the verge of tears listening to that post-fight interview and hearing about where this guy has come from, the absolute shitstorm that he's been through to get to this point. I believe he was talking about paying off his house, being able to pay off his house with the winnings from this fight. That's got to be just an awesome feeling. I can't wait to feel that one day for my own home. So, but all credit to Bobby Green. To me, dude, he seemed like, I just love a passionate person like that. And someone that's fighting with like that amount of heart and passion, I'll put my money on him every time. So I'm excited to see who Bobby Green goes up against next.
I think that was a real good feel-good moment, but a lot of people got a kick in the dick that last weekend. And talk about a transition there. Yeah, I think it was the open up the card. It was 8 nut shots and 4 fights. Like, what was going on? It's like kicking someone in the dick is the new eye poke these days. I don't know. Is it because the people are going for calf kicks these days that they're coming up, or because knees in the clinch? Did you see any like consistency in these nut shots, or like what was going on?
You want to know my cynical take? My cynical take is that due to COVID-19, folks just aren't getting the same training camp that they would normally get. So we're seeing guys that are here's the more, I'm going to give you the more likely reason is that some of these shots that maybe would typically graze the cup or the groin area, and a fighter would shake off like nothing happened. They're now taking their time, recognizing that as a groin kick, and taking their time to recover a little bit. The even more cynical version of that is maybe the guys kicking them in the nuts are also looking for a chance to recover. This might just be all down to people not being able to train it the way that they usually would. No, but to be honest with you, Jesse, I think the person that took the kick in the nuts more than anybody this weekend, and we haven't even talked about it yet, was Edmen Shahbazyan, the rising star put to task by Derek Brunson. Unbelievable performance by Brunson. Put it up there, Jesse. Let me see my numbers, because I have Derek Brunson to thank for a 21-10 record, 68% winning percentage, and 21.5 units up since July 1. If you did the right thing, the smart thing, and tailed me last week on that plus 450 bet for Derek Brunson to win by knockout, then you're probably sitting in a similar boat as I am on Thursday, August 5th. Feeling pretty good, and I hope you guys bet more than I do, because I don't play with big money. So 21.5 units is real nice. But if anybody's playing with more money than me, they're going to be feeling even better. Maybe in a situation like Bobby Green, where they're already able to pay off their house. Who knows? Jesse, who knows? But tell me what you saw out of Edmen Shahbazyan. Where does this guy go from here? And more importantly, I guess, where does the blonde-headed Derek Brunson go?
He channeled his inner Dennis Rodman in that fight, man. But I can't hate on Derek Brunson, man. Not on this performance. I think this is more about Derek Brunson than it is about Edmen Shahbazyan. Derek Brunson. I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next for a man. I think if he takes a step up, it's not going to be good for him. Maybe he gets I don't know. I even think Kelvin Gastelum takes his head off. I think Jack Hermanson isn't a good fight for him. I don't think Darren Till's a good fight for him. Edmen Shahbazyan was just at that right level for him. Watching it back now, Monday morning, quarterbacking it. I think Shahbazyan's a young dude. He's a talented guy. He's got a long UFC career ahead of him. And that dream of being a UFC championship, I don't think it's unreachable for him at some point in time. It's just not now. He ran into a veteran that had a good skill set and was the patient Derek Brunson. And that was a Derek Brunson we haven't seen before. So I don't think you can take anything away from him. Derek Brunson's in a weird spot. Edmen Shahbazyan, I think he should go down and fight some lower level competition, because what's hard about the UFC, man, is if you are young and inexperienced and growing as a fighter and growing your game, the UFC is a hard place to do it. And especially when you're going up against veterans, you have to lean on the skill sets that are your best skill sets, and you have to work on those. It's hard to work on what you're not good at when you're constantly fighting top-level competition. So I think Shahbazyan should take a step down. I hope the UFC recognizes that. Derek Brunson, I think you're in trouble for your next fight. Still not. We'll wait and see what happens, but good win for him. JL, for your record, man, at this point I can't hate on it, man. 21-10. You are seeing the floor differently. For
That's
me,
some third eye. That's some third eye Kyrie Irving shit right there, man.
21-10 in MMA, it's nothing to shake a stick at. So hopefully you're winning some money for our audience. But
hey, all right. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's fights. But I do want to say, I am nervous. I have had an unbelievable amount of success. I'm confident we can keep this rolling, but also for those that are tailing me, just know that at some point this is going to run out, and at some point you have to decide when you're going to fade me. So whether that's this week, next week, or 4 weeks from now, you're going to have to decide when to fade me.
I'm disappointed. Are you giving yourself a way out? Are you like saying, I told you last week? Is that what you're teeing yourself up for? Where's this confident JL that you always talk about?
Listen, man, it's in the bet game. At some point you have to either fade yourself, which I've done a few times now in the NBA. So don't be afraid to fade yourself. So you have to know when that correction or when that return to the mean, because Vegas is going to normally win. So you just have to plan for that. All I'm saying is I'm trying to plan for that, and you should too. And I'm probably, setting myself up to not take the blame and maybe get death threats or something if at some point I start losing.
All right, whatever. All right, let's look ahead.
This is not my day job. I have a real job. I do not rely on this money. I do not bet with sums of money that require me to rely on my Vegas winnings. So.
All right, I'm looking ahead to UFC Vegas 6 after JL's just given himself a way out of this card. I'm trying to win some money this week. I don't know what JL's.
It's about time, bro. It's about time. It's about time you try to win some money for yourself and our loyal listeners.
Shout out to Ali Al-Kasai. I'm going to take a drink for that one because I don't think I got it right, but
I think it's Quasi.
I think it is too. Versus Erwin Rivera. There are some hard names on this card. Erwin Rivera opening up as the favorite at -175. Ali coming back at +155. Some fun stuff, actually, looking to Ali. This was my first time watching tape on him. I've seen his name around the MMA Twitterverse. He is the first Jordanian to fight in the UFC. He's on a 5-fight win streak, so he opened up his career at 3-3, now 8-3. So really fought his way to a somewhat respectable record, but now making his UFC debut. He kind of
I heard Drake actually shouted him out on the heady freestyle.
That was a bad joke. That one wasn't good.
All right, go ahead.
All right, Ali went to 10P, 10th Planet Las Vegas to train for this fight. So hopefully we're going to be seeing some good classic Eddie Bravo 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu on this one. The most actually interesting credential that he has.
Bravo's too busy donating to the Donald Trump campaign, bro. I'm afraid he's not all there mentally right now. All right, go ahead.
Dale, get out of my breakdown here, dude. You're ruining it. Ali is a 10-time Kung Fu world champion, which is absolutely insane. His fight style is pretty awkward, though. Yeah, I don't know how much stock I want to put into him being a Kung Fu world champion, but he definitely fights pretty awkward for an MMA fighter. Erwin's got good fundamentals, though. He's a pressure fighter, but so is Ali. I really want to bet on Ali just to roll with the Kung Fu and say I won on Kung Fu. The thing that's holding me against it is he was really heavy on his lead leg, and it seems like 2020 is definitely the year of the calf kick. Even more than 2019 was. So Erwin might come with the calf kick, and if he does, it's over. But I'm going to roll with Ali just for the hell of it. It's time to get risky. It's time to take a dog. I'm throwing it 1 unit on Ali Al-Kasi at +155. Let's roll with the
I love it, man. I'm tailing you on that. So we'll release our official picks on Twitter either Friday afternoon, Saturday morning. Give you guys time to place those bets. But I think I'm going to be following you on that. I can't turn down a 10-time Kung Fu world champion, man. I'm pumped about that. Making his UFC debut, correct?
Yep.
I'm all in. So we got Peter Barrett versus Youssef Zalal. And Peter Barrett's technically making his UFC debut. He's Contender Series fight against Sang-Hoo Yo. Yo sprung on pretty early in that fight. It's the only fight I watched in preparation from Peter Barrett. But it's always tough to judge a Contender Series fight. Yo is obviously going for the finish in that fight, just like I think a lot of these guys do when they get into that Contender Series situation, because they're looking for that contract and looking for that flash to get Dana White's attention, right? Yo landed a few huge knees when Barrett was shooting, And that kind of takes me to where I think that this fight might go. Barrett is going to try to get this on the ground. He's certainly not going to be the better guy against Yusuf Zalal in the striking exchanges, though he does have a little bit of power. He likes to throw heavy that overhand right from outside of range. Zalal 2-0 in the UFC, 2 unanimous decision wins. Not necessarily a power guy, but certainly a guy that picks you apart. Aside from leaning back in those when he's exiting out of range in those striking exchanges, he's pretty impressive on the feet. Now, is he impressive enough to be a -450 favorite? I'm not so sure. That's insane for a guy who's this early in his career and is going up against a relative unknown. You know, if Barrett gets us into the clinch, and Barrett ate a couple shots against Yo, that leads me to believe he's going to be in this fight from start to finish. I just don't feel good enough about Zalal that he could creep up to like that -500 range by the time that we're, kicking off this fight. I don't feel good enough, man. I think maybe watch this, maybe look for a live bet. Certainly Zalal is the better fighter, but at -450, to me, it's a clear stay away here.
Yeah,
and I like the Factory X guys. I mean, the Colorado boys. Zalal just bought a house here in Colorado, so appreciate that. But yeah, it's too big of a favorite from a betting perspective, though I do think Zalal will win this fight.
Yeah, I've said it before. I think Zalal is part of that up-and-coming Factory X young guys with Gutierrez, Martinez, Royval. They're all a promising group coming up. But yeah, -450 on a young guy in the UFC, that's kind of hard to get behind. But looking ahead to Gavin Tucker versus Justin James. Justin James coming off of a huge upset over Frank Camacho. I think Frank Camacho was like -400 or something when Justin James took it on short notice and knocked him out. I lost money on that one. So Justin James, I remember the name. Gavin Tucker on the other side. Gavin Tucker is kind of a hit or miss fighter. Sometimes he's out there with the flashy footwork, looking like the second coming of Dominic Cruz. But then some days he just doesn't show up to work. And for me, that's kind of hard to make a play here. I really, really want to bet Gavin Tucker. And at the same time, I don't know if Justin James is a one-hit wonder with his knockout over Frank Camacho. So I'm going to skip over this one pretty quickly. This is easily a no bet for me. What I am going to do is try to look to see what the under's coming in at right now on this one and see if we can get a play at maybe under 2.5, because I think there's a possibility that Justin James knocks out Gavin Tucker here.
You don't want to put money on the Cody Garbrandt lookalike?
I don't. He looks like I tried to make Cody Garbrandt in UFC 4 but failed. So shout out to Gavin Tucker. Hope you come on the show someday.
Alrighty. So moving on to Andrew Sanchez and Wellington Turman. Sanchez, aka El Dirte. Love that. First fight since his loss to Marvin Vettori last October. Certainly nothing to be too upset about. We've seen Marvin have a lot of success here recently, but he's got Sanchez has 3 out of his last 5 losses by way of knockout. Doesn't make me feel too confident about the guy coming into this fight against Wellington Turman. It's his 3rd UFC fight. 1-1 so far, but had a split decision against Carl Robertson. He looked pretty good. Really could have gone either way. Wellington throws with some really nice power, and he's going to use that to kind of get in to the range where he can get Sanchez on the ground, where he's also pretty dominant. To me, this is going to be a really nice play for us because the odds are close. Looking at -155 for Wellington Turman, it's right in the range where I think we can make some money. So I got to play at 1.5 units on Wellington. I just think he's the stronger guy. He's going to get Sanchez in the situations, both against the fence, do some dirty boxing, get him on the ground. He's just a stronger fighter overall. And the way Sanchez has lost the last 3 out of his 5 losses by way of knockout leads me to think that chin's getting a little soft on Mr. Sanchez there. So I do think he's going to get outclassed, and I think we could be talking about Wellington Turman come Monday morning as a potential rising star here in the UFC.
Oh, 1.5 units, getting a little big on this one. Well, let me show you how it's done. So Alex Munoz versus Nasrat Hakras. Nasrat Hakras coming off a loss to Drew Dober that he was a big favorite in, and that was kind of Drew Dober announcing to the 155 Yeah,
My
shout
neighbor.
out Colorado. Yeah, shout out to the 155 rankings that he's on the come up. Nasrat, though, before that was really one of the most promising 155 prospects out there. When you watch him fight, he's patient. He throws some feelers out there before he really sticks to his game plan. I think his knockout win 2 fights ago, sorry, I'm forgetting his name, making myself look unprepared, where he got the knockout loss with the right overhand, kind of poisoned him in that Drew Dober fight. I think he thought of himself as a knockout artist and got a little more reckless. Nasrat is a good defensive fighter that knows how to pick his shots, and I think that Drew Dober fight was out of character, and that's why you're seeing him come down to these minus 235 odds. I think if it wasn't for that fight, you'd see him in the minus 400, minus 500 range, because Nasrat is just that good. So I'm so high on Nasrat, man. I'm going to double what JL just did in his last, but I'm going to go 3 units on Nasrat Hackgrass, because I don't think we're getting him at minus 235 again, fighting this level of the talent. So 3-unit play on Nasrat coming your way.
All right. Well, I will. I'll see your 3-unit play, and I will also give you guys a play on Staropoli versus Tim Means. So we got the God damn it. Laureano Staropoli, got it. Only UFC loss was against Muslim Salahoff in his last fight. We've seen Muslim obviously come on strong here recently. I'm not holding that against Staropoli. He does a really good job of actually managing the distance, but he's not a high volume striker, which does make me a little nervous. But nonetheless, he's going to pick apart these less talented fighters. Just needs a full fight to kind of do so because he's not throwing with a lot of volume. We got Tim Means, the journeyman. UFC vet, 5 losses in his last 8 fights. Kind of says it all, doesn't it? Doesn't do a lot of movement. Doesn't really, doesn't do more than really stand still and try to hold the center by doing so. Doesn't move his head or any other part of his body. So that being said, I just think Staropoli is going to outclass Tim Means. I think Vegas is sleeping on Staropoli here. Means going to try to look to shoot a couple takedowns, and as long as Staropoli combats that, I think we're going to be in really good shape if this stays on the feet. So I got a 2-unit play on Staropoli, and yes, Jesse, I love it at minus 140. I'm all about that. So I think we're got a couple good opportunities here on this screen with Wellington and Staropoli to make some money on Saturday night.
Betting against the dirty bird, huh?
Dude, I can't bet on a guy who is losing that often. I don't believe he's fought since – I guess he did fight there in February, but lost to Daniel Rodriguez to a standing guillotine choke. To me, it's just time for maybe 10 minutes to hang up the gloves. And I think Staropoli is just the younger, more talented guy, and I think he's going to bounce back here.
Sounds good. Well, Kevin Holland's been itching to catch a body, so – does he get to catch a body this week?
I think this is going to hark back to the first fight that we reviewed there with Zalal and Peter Barrett. A minus 400 favorite. What do you have on that there? Yeah, minus 450, creeping back up to that maybe close to the minus 500 range by the time we get to the fight. I will say I think Holland is deserving of being the favorite here, but again, this is a situation where I don't feel really comfortable betting on Kevin Holland, and I'll tell you why. Joaquin Buckley, skilled kickboxer, but really does the same thing that I feel like a lot of inexperienced guys do and are throwing for the knockout, especially throwing for the knockout when they're held out of range, which I do think Holland is going to be able to do here in this fight. He's going to stay on the feet. Neither guy is really going to want to get it to the ground. Holland's going to be the more lanky fighter, going to be able to keep it. I also think he's the more skilled striker, going to be able to keep it at his distance. And one of 2 things is going to happen here. Either Buckley is going to get caught on one of his lunging punches and he's going to get knocked out, or Kevin Holland is going to get knocked out for the first time in his career. That being said, I would see Holland getting this done, but like I said, no play here. If you really want to get frisky and tail our bets from last week on Derek Brunson, there's a similar play here for Buckley, but I don't think Buckley's experienced enough for me to lay the money. If it was maybe right now, Buckley to get the KO is plus 420 inside the distance to win. If that was more like plus 800, maybe I'm betting on Buckley and just throwing a little flyer out there. but this guy needs a lot of work technically to get to a spot where he's going to be able to compete in the UFC. This is a stay away unless money starts coming in on Buckley. If Buckley lands a couple big shots early, then we'll go in hard on Kevin Holland, but otherwise this is a stay away. All right. So next up we have Beneil Dariush versus Scott Holtzman. Beneil coming in as a -185 favorite, or closing at a -185 favorite. Scott Holtzman there at +160. Beneil looking good, man. 4-0 in his last 4 fights against some pretty impressive competition, beating Jakar Close with an overhand left, beating Frank Camacho, beating Drew Dober with that armbar, and then also beating Thiago Moises. So in the last 2 years or so, been undefeated here in the UFC. I think maybe he's just not getting enough credit because people just think of him as the BJJ guy, but he's got some striking capability as well, and I think he'll be able to use that to get inside on Scott Holtzman. Now, Holtzman's certainly experienced enough to be able to keep that distance initially, and Holtzman himself only has 1 loss in his last 5 fights, just hasn't gone against the same level of competition. So for that reason, I do think Dariush is an appropriate favorite here, but I do think maybe this is going to be a little closer to a 50-50 fight. My thought is that if we live bet this and Dariush is able to get him on the ground early or has success closing that distance early, then we pull as quick as we can on Dariush. But if Holtzman's able to keep that distance, then maybe it gets a little weirder. I still really like Beneil to win this fight, but I'm going to hold off on a play and look for something live there in the first couple minutes of that fight to just kind of see how things play out.
Yeah, I think you're right, dude. I think Beneil does get a lot of hate, to be honest with you. We watched him fight Moise at UFC Denver, and he was getting booed out of the fucking stadium that fight. But the man was content on winning in a certain way, and he's not afraid to do what he needs to do to get a win. So if he's got to hold Scott Holtzman up against the cage to get the win, he will. So can't fault a winner. It really gave me probably pound for pound the hardest names to announce on this next fight. I got Yana Kunitskaya down, but Juliaja Stolorenko, I'll take a drink for that one.
That wasn't bad, man. That wasn't too bad.
Juliaja thinks she's the next Ronda Rousey with all these armbar finishes. She's absolutely a specialist. She goes for those arm bars every single time, and if she's on her back, or she'll look for it, that is. On the same time, though, watching film on her striking is not that impressive. It's 1 strike or 2 strike, 1 strike, 2 strike, super predictable, and it's not really seen much improvement over the last couple fights. At the same time, too, someone might look at her record and look at her finishes and might be impressed by all these arm bars, but she's fighting tomato cans, man. She's fighting people with 2 and 3 records, 4 and 4 records. She's fighting 500 fighters. So in women's MMA, it's already hard enough to judge how good someone is based off the relative talent, because the talent discrepancy is it varies from fight to fight. There's no real true gatekeepers. So it's hard to figure out where she's at overall, especially because she's not even fought in the UFC before. If you look at Yana Kunitskaya, on the other hand, Yana has fought some tough people. Talk about making your UFC debut against Chris Cyborg. You don't really draw a worse first UFC fight than that in women's MMA. So Yana, since that though, she's shown improvement. She showed that she's a legit talent. She's got experience outside of the UFC and Invicta as well. I really like
Marion Renault. I like that win from her.
Yep, she beat Marion Renault. Even though Marion Renault is in her 40s, she's no joke. So I really like Yana in this fight. I'm going to do a 2-unit play on Yana to try and win 1 unit back here. I think she's a veteran enough to stay away from Juliaja in certain positions where Juliaja is strong. And I think on the feet, it's going to be a massacre. So I really like Yana to come away here. So I got a 2-unit play on Yana. We're getting aggressive this week, so that's another play for me.
Just real quick before we move to that next fight, read off Juliaja's finishes here. So her first ever MMA fight, armbar win. Then she loses to elbows, lost to retirement. That's funny. Gets a draw, and then it goes armbar, decision, armbar, decision split. So that is Julie Aja's record here in MMA, so to date, and I just think that's really fun to read off, so that's why I did that.
Yeah, you remember when you played UFC 4 against your brother-in-law, and I showed you how to do the takedown with Kamaru Usman?
Yeah, yes, and
you just spammed it over and over again. That's exactly what Julie Aja has done in MMA. She's got one technique down that she's spamming over and over again. But welcome to the big show, girl. It's going to get a little tougher here. These people know how to play the game. So we'll see how this goes. All right, looking ahead to I think one of the fights that I think is the most competitive fight on this card. You got Darren Stewart taking on Coconut Bombs, Maki Pitolo. This is a fun fight here. Darren Stewart, I was dying laughing. Someone called him Little Tyron Woodley. He's a UFC veteran here. He's got a ton of UFC fights. He holds kind of the title for me for the most boring fight in UFC history. And if it's not number one, it's top 2 or 3 against Bevan Lewis. Where almost no action happened, and the whole fight came down to who was a little more aggressive, and it was pretty tough to see. So Darren Stewart, the main problem with him is you don't know which one's going to show up. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not. He just apparently it was a cross promotion where Dana White sent him over to Cage Warriors. It was 2 UFC fighters fighting a Cage Warriors promotion. Kind of weird going on there, but he lost. And then he also lost some other fights in the UFC that you think he should have won. On the other side, Maki Pitolo just got a big win not too long ago fighting the Apex. And I like that he's already fought in the Apex this year. He had an impressive performance, and now Darren Stewart's coming into, again, a new environment for him. I like Maki Pitolo as the dog here, plus 135 odds, 42% implied probability. I think this is more of a Maki fight. He has what it takes to win this fight. At the same time, I'm kind of edging a little bit if I really want to take that bet on Maki. Right now, I'm definitely taking the under 2.5 at minus 136. So lock me in there on a 1-unit play. We'll see. You're going to have to tune in on Twitter to see if I actually take him straight up. But I definitely like the minus 136.
Take Coconut Bombs, Jesse. God, like you just made the best case on why you should be taking Maki. Just put your money where your mouth is. Put the money on Maki right now. Come on.
Fuck it. 2 units on Maki Pitolo, JL.
Let's go, man.
There you go.
And
so
I'm
you got a one
tail you on it just out of Bet Boys for Life.
Bet Boys for Life. So we got 2 units on Maki, straight up money line, and then we got 1 unit on minus 136 at under 2.5.
I mean, Coconut Bombs might be the best UFC nickname. It's
we got some good ones,
in
man.
consideration.
There's some good ones that have come up lately, so
I love it.
All right. My favorite section, UFC head-to-head.
Me too.
I'm sure it's your favorite section. You've been beating the hell out of me on this. We got Chris Weidman versus Omari Akhmedov in the co-main event. JL, I'm going to let you take this. You got the lead. You lead it off. Let's hear what the expert has to say.
In what world, Jesse? In what world? Are we living in bizarro world that Chris Weidman is a favorite in this fight? I'm going with Akhmedov all day. 5-fight win streak, and I'm giving him that draw versus Vettori because Vettori seems to somehow work out a split decision or a draw against everybody. I'm counting that as the win for Omari. Weidman coming down the middleweight here, arguably the deepest division in the UFC. It's going to be obvious, I think, early that he doesn't belong. I'm going to save my play and let you kind of give your analysis, and then I'll give you my play.
I think you've been drinking a little too much already because, 1, middleweight is not one of the deepest divisions in the UFC. Ask lightweight, welterweight, and bantamweight. And then, 2, you already told me you're rolling with Akhmedov, but we'll wait on the play, I guess.
I said arguably. Adesanya, Whitaker, Costa, Romero, Hermanson, Cannonier, Darren Till, Derek Brunson, Kelvin Gastelum, Uriah Hall. That's the top 10 right now,
Did
man.
you just say Uriah Hall?
He's top 10.
Don't come at me with that's whatever.
Marvin Vettori, Ian Heinisch.
All right. We'll have to save this for a debate on what's the most competitive division in the UFC, but it's
I didn't say
definitely
it
not
was
middleweight.
the most. I said it was arguably. You can make an argument. If you're as good at arguing as I am at betting, you could probably make the argument.
All right, comments plug. Tell me in the comments what you think the most competitive division in the UFC is. All right.
El Kukui is definitely not gonna side with me on this one, though he has had my back on almost everything. So mad props to El Kukui.
All right. Omari Akhmedov, man. I don't know why he's the underdog. The money's fallen his way. You should have grabbed him early. I grabbed him at plus 135. Chris Weidman is just falling apart, man. This dude was the Brazilian killer. He knocked out Anderson Silva, beat Vitor Belfort, beat Lyoto Machida. Then he ran into Luke Rockhold. Still my boy, according to his dad, but the guy just keeps losing. He does. Just like other fighters on this card know how to find a way to win, Chris Weidman knows how to find a way to lose. And if you're betting him at minus 135 on this horrendous losing streak that this man is on, you're drunk. You're drunker than JL is right now. And
yeah,
you need to take the searching
This is a little bit behind the curtain, but this is a sparkling lime water, not even alcohol. High on life and drunk on Jesus, my friend.
You gotta go with Omari Akhmedov. The fact that you can get him at plus money is just showing that Chris Weidman has a name. The guy runs into punches all the time, which Omari Akhmedov will be happy to greet him with. Look at the Dominic Reyes fight. If you want to look at him just making terrible decision making, look at the Gegard Mousasi fight. If you want to look at anything, man, just you know what? Don't even watch film on this fight. Just put two units on Omari Akhmedov and call it a night. 2 units Omari Akhmedov for me. JL, are you going with 4? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm going with a 4-unit play on Omari Akhmedov. Just did it. Got it at plus 105, so it is dropping rapidly, but I still feel really good about getting a little bit better than even money on that. So 4-unit play, and Jesse, we get money.
All right. Well, hey, man, I'm going to keep letting you lead off since you're the expert here. You know, what is your thoughts on Alexei Oleinik versus the Black Derek Lewis?
This one's also a relatively simple fight for me to call. I can't understand why Derek Lewis is becoming such a big favorite in this fight. Again, Oleinik opened as a minus 225 favorite, and Derek Lewis is now moving to a minus 200 favorite. And I guarantee you, this is probably my best call of the night. By the time this fight kicks off, Derek Lewis will be at least minus 250. So I am actually holding my play until right before the fight so that I can get the best money on Alexei Oleinik, because he's probably going to be in that plus 200 range by the time by the time Bruce Buffer steps outside there. But that being said, I will be putting a plus 1.5 unit play on Oleinik to win straight up. And then, Jesse, a 1 unit play on Oleinik to win by submission. Right now it's at plus 245. I think that'll probably stay right around there. But tell me this, Jesse. Derek Lewis is really gonna beat a guy whose nickname is the Boa Constructor?
You know, the story of Alexei Oleinik is one that everyone's going to forget after his UFC career, and it's actually pretty sad for me. He's one of the most devastating submission heavyweights in MMA history. The guy has the Ezekiel choke cheat code, and he's got submission after submission after submission, and he knows how to win. He finds a way to win. Look no further than the Fabricio Verdum fight not too long ago. So it is sad that I feel like he's never going to get the recognition he really deserves, as he almost has 60 MMA wins, which is absolutely insane. But I repped Houston for a reason, guys. It's because I'm rolling with my boy, Derek Lewis. I got him at minus 200. We're going to do a 2-unit play on Derek Lewis at minus 200, and we're going to sweeten it too. We're going to make it even a little more fun. Shout out to Houston. Shout out to Popeye's Chicken. We're going to go a 1-unit play at Derek Lewis, round 2 KO. I think skinny Derek Lewis, which he's putting that road work in, skinny Derek Lewis is going to knock him out in round 2. So we're going to take that at plus 550, Derek Lewis to knock out Alexei Oleinik. You want to know why I'm taking the bet? Because I watched tape. Alexei Oleinik keeps that head in the same place. I think Derek Lewis is going to be working that takedown defense, and he's going to knock him out just like Walt Harris did, only in the second round. So we got a 2-unit play, Derek Lewis money line, and then we got a 1-unit play, round 2 KO at plus 550. Lock him in.
Let's I guess yes, that Walt Harris fight does cause a little bit of concern for me, but that is kind of a one-off, man. I mean, he won by flying knee.
He was headbutting Alistair Overeem's knees. Surprised he got knocked out.
I think that I still like my play on Oleinik, and if you're gonna give me, I think really honestly, dude, this fight shouldn't be a huge. This shouldn't have a minus 200 favorite either way, in my opinion, because either Derek Lewis is gonna knock him out, or Alexei Oleinik is going to get the submission. This, like, to me, it's more of a 50-50 fight. So that's kind of why I'm going with the underdog. I'd probably be tailing you if Derek Lewis was the plus 200 underdog. But also, man, you got to know, Derek, I'm glad you got him at minus 200. I bet you wish you would have got him at plus 185 wherever he opened at. Because I bet you would feel better about that bet right there. But
yeah,
this is hopefully, well, it's definitely not going 5 rounds. So we'll get to go to bed early again, which would be nice.
Yeah, I think my balls is hot comment cost us 100 points here.
Literally, yeah. No, and it's going to cost you another 50 because as soon as the casual fans that are watching it put 2 and 2 together, when Derek Lewis walks out, they're going to remember that and they're going to automatically bet on him. Mark my words.
Well, that concludes, our breakdown of UFC Vegas 6. Let's go into Two Guys One Octagon Newsroom. JL, hit us with it. All right, kicking things off. Interesting topic here, man. Tim Elliott, Jamal Hill, add some others to the list, all get suspended from the Nevada State Athletic Commission for testing positive for marijuana. JL, you live in a marijuana use state. I live in a marijuana use state. Reason I say that is we have an understanding of the casual user here. What are your thoughts on really the UFC testing for marijuana, one, and then also their fighters being penalized for using the substance?
Yeah, I got a wide range of thoughts on this. I'll try to keep it short so we can move through this. But I came from a pretty conservative state, grew up in a pretty conservative environment. So it actually, when I moved out to Colorado, it did take me some time to really get used to how casual and frequent and common marijuana usage is amongst our peer group in Colorado. Literally, it is literally as common as drinking beer amongst people that I know here in Colorado, which is interesting. And like I said, took me some time to get used to. So I understand the stigma around it. That being said, the NBA led the way on this by stopping marijuana testing this season. I think they were the first sports league to do so. I would like to see other sports leagues follow suit. Frankly, it's not impacting performance unless they're high for the fight or the game. And any professional athlete that would be using a substance of any kind that would alter your mind during an athletic event, then I question whether you should be a professional athlete anyway. So that's not why these guys are using it. They're either using it recreationally in their spare time, or they're using it as a recovery device, which there's a lot of good research coming out around marijuana being a good recovery device, especially for a high contact sport like MMA. To me, man, this should be, I'm all in favor of testing for performance enhancing drugs. I'm all in favor of testing for drugs like cocaine that could alter your performance. But a drug like marijuana, to me, it is as harmless as drinking a glass of wine, and I think we should do away with that and stop putting these guys in a situation where they can't earn money because they decided to take an edible.
Yeah, I can't say any better myself, so I'm not even going to add to that. I completely agree with you. JL, I know you wanted to talk about Conor McGregor. Dana White saying he's not going to fight this year in 2020. For me, I'm pretty bummed out about this, man. I think there were some interesting matchups for Conor. At the same time, if Gaethje is being pushed back to October, asking for a quick turnaround for one of those guys, which I think is really his next fight, is the winner of Gaethje. I think it's really, they're not going to turn around and fight in December. So I would like to see Conor come back in February. I am bummed out we didn't get to see the 2020 season at the same time. But, you know, I'm a little sad about it. I know, JL, you're a Khabib fanboy, so let's hear what you guys say.
I'm slowly becoming a Khabib fanboy. I'd said it last week. The only reason I suggested we put this in there is to give you a chance to defend your boy, because I will not talk about Conor McGregor starting today until this man is signed up for a fight. I don't want anything to do with him. I'm done talking about Conor McGregor. You lost me when you said you were going to have a season. You had every opportunity to do so. And to me, man, this one's on Conor for not stepping up and wanting to fight somebody. And I don't think his next fight is against that winner. He's not fighting for the belt, man. He doesn't deserve it yet. He needs at least one more, probably two more fights to get to the point where he really deserves a shot again at Khabib specifically. Now, I guess if Justin Gaethje wins, that is definitely a fight I would love to see, is Conor versus Justin. So maybe that changes the calculus. But if Khabib wins, then I do think Conor's still one or two fights away from getting that.
I really couldn't disagree with a lot of what you said in there. I think,
of course, you couldn't.
The fact that you're saying that
I'm surprised that you don't have Conor's. I'm surprised you don't have the tattoos on your chest.
I'm getting the gorilla right here. Yeah, man. I think Conor McGregor is the biggest draw in the sport. Saying that he doesn't deserve a shot, I think that's not how the game works. You can have your opinion there, but Conor McGregor gets the winner of whoever he wants. That's how it works now in the UFC. That's how it's worked since 2015. So everybody needs to get used to it. He's gonna get the winner of that fight. It's just gonna happen. He's gonna skip the line. I'm sorry to everybody else that deserves a shot, but at the same time too, man, he's the biggest draw in the sport. I think everybody else is bummed out about it and everybody wants to talk about it. That's why the man hasn't fought since January, and he's still one of the biggest stories out there right now. So shout out to his genius tweet as well about Khabib diving for the jockstrap. I can't wait to see the tweets that come out leading up to the Gaethje Khabib fight.
Genius. Really, that's what you're going to label genius? All right, we're moving on.
All right, well, let's roll with the genius trains, or actually anti-genius trains in these UFC rankings. This is just the top 50. It really does get worse
so
as you move in. The fact that I'm not even a Dominic Reyes fan. I'm actually the furthest away from a Dominic Reyes fan. And you got him 47th overall. This guy's the number 2 light heavyweight in the UFC right now. Took John Jones to the brink. And you got all these other people. You got Ronda Rousey ahead of him, Rafael Dos Anjos ahead of him. The fact is, one of the most crazy things I saw today, I saw Jorge Masvidal is 14th in the game right now. He's right behind Max Holloway, but he's ahead of Peter Yan. He's ahead of Daniel Cormier. Who cares if he's the cover athlete? Get it? This should be the pound-for-pound rankings.
Okay, well, the most ridiculous thing about Jorge Masvidal being where he was at, and I'm trying to pull it up, his grappling rating was 4 stars.
Which is the same as Max Holloway's.
Yeah, and Justin Gaethje's 3.5 stars for grappling. I think Conor McGregor's 3.5 stars and Jorge Masvidal's 4 stars. I mean, to me, it would be like, I feel like Jorge Masvidal and Conor McGregor would be right there, right at 3.5 stars, and maybe Jorge Masvidal is a little bit better at the grappling side of things, but certainly not enough better to get another half star there. Yeah, man, it's a little wild, but I guess when you're the cover athlete, I think Conor certainly got the bump, but probably a little bit more well-deserved at the time, because I understand he's pretty tough to beat in UFC 3. But yeah,
I don't know.
Let me know. Man, it's a video game. Whatever.
Yeah. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you guys think of the UFC ratings and who has the most outrageous ratings overall, and what you guys think. At the same time, Anthony Ortega and El Kukui, or El Tiramisu, as they call him on Twitter, congrats on winning our giveaway on this. So moving right along.
We should set up a tournament, man. Once this thing comes out officially, we should get a tournament going with the loyal watchers of our program. Let's get a little knockout single elimination tournament going on the Xbox Live or PS, whatever PlayStation Live is. I don't know.
I think it's PlayStation Network is what it's called. Yeah. But all right, moving into the next topic. This came out last week, but I wanted to wait to make sure that we weren't being punked when it came out. We're getting Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones. This is going to kick off our debate section. Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson. There's a lot of things to talk about with this, but JL, first, are you excited about this fight?
Not really, but mainly because I heard that the rules are put in place where like there's no knockouts or knockdowns, or you probably know a little bit better than I do, but I guess it sounds like maybe the gloves won't be coming off, to use that colloquialism, and that we're not going to get the full fight. If we're going to get the full fight, then I'd probably be a little bit more excited, and I'll probably buy it anyways, to be honest with you, because I don't think that Mike Tyson can let off the gas. So that's my 2 cents. It sounds like this is going to be more of a supposed to be like more of a sparring match.
Yeah, it's an exhibition is what they're titling it. But we saw Floyd Mayweather fight. I'm forgetting the guy's name.
ConorMcGregor. Yeah.
No, that was an actual bout. Floyd is 50-0. Tenshin Natsukawa is who he fought. An exhibition match in Japan, actually, and Floyd he knocked him out in that fight, and he beat him pretty bad. He knocked him down 3 times, but I heard there is like a no knockdown rule or something like that. It's a little weird. I have to look more into it, but I am excited about this fight. I mean, I never really thought in really my fight lifetime, when I started watching fights in about 2006, 2007 timeframe, that I would be able to get to see Mike Tyson fight. Even if it's not in his prime, the fact that Mike Tyson's fighting and we're going to be able to watch it on pay-per-view is super exciting. At the same time, Roy Jones Jr., in my opinion, I think he reached the highest high you could reach as a boxer in his prime at the same time. I think he's not the greatest fighter of all time, but I definitely think in his prime, he was the best fighter, MMA or boxing or kung fu or whatever you want to call it, there has ever been to walk on this earth. So, fun fact, Roy Jones Jr. is the only one to enter the sport as a junior middleweight, which is about 152, I believe. 157, and actually win the heavyweight championship of the world in his UFC career. So it's absolutely incredible, his resume. I mean, you look at it, he's got 66 wins, 47 knockouts. Mike Tyson only had 50 wins, 44 knockouts. This is just a fun fight, just that we get to see these guys throw their weapons around for a little bit. I think it's going to be a little bit of a hugging match near the end since there's no knockdowns. I wish they were going out there to try and take each other head off, because Roy Jones is a little chinny these days. Mike Tyson, I think you saw his pad work with Rafael Cordero. At the same time, I don't think Mike Tyson has much of a gas tank. The longest tape you can find of him hitting mitts is 6 seconds. So to think that he's going to carry any power past that, I think you're a little silly if you think he's going to be able to go 2, 3, 4 rounds and carry that power. So I think it's just fun, man. I'm excited to see the fight. I'm definitely going to get the pizza, the pay-per-view, have some people over, watch the fight. It's going to be a good time, but is this like how I'm looking at Khabib-Justin Gaethje fight? Absolutely not.
All right, so Tyson actually opened as the underdog. Tyson was plus 120 underdog. Roy Jones Jr. is a minus 160 favorite. Obviously, public money already coming in super hard on Mike Tyson. He's a minus 190 favorite now, and Jones at plus 145. I definitely don't think anybody should bet on this fight.
No. I think betting on this fight is like betting on Logan Paul versus KSI. It's the same.
Which you did, Jesse. You did that.
But that's fine.
I believe the exact quote was KSI was quote lock.
KSI won. But
oh, man.
To me, fun thing that you're talking about the betting odds on this. When Roy Jones and Mike Tyson were both in their primes at the same time, there was this hypothetical odds that came out because there was a chance that they might fight. Roy Jones actually opened up as the favorite at like minus 185 when these hypothetical odds came out for them to fight. So super interesting for a guy that started his career at junior middleweight.
That being said, do not bet on this fight. We are not giving it a bet on this fight.
I don't know. We might do a breakdown the week before. Who knows?
All right.
All right, that's a show, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That was Two Guys One Octagon. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, follow us on Twitter at Two Guys One Octagon. Tell us what you think in the comments. We love to chat back and forth with you. We're probably going to tee up another giveaway soon, so tell us what you guys would care about winning. As always, Isolandos, take us home. We out of here.
Look, Mom, your son's a rapper. I done came a long way from robbing, scamming, trapping. You always had a way with words. I picked up on your habits. Everything we've been through in the past, I like it never happened. Look, Mom, your son's a rapper. I done came a long way from robbing, scamming, trapping. You always had a way with words. I picked up on your habits. Everything we've been through in the past, I like it never happened. I know.